Well, good morning to everybody. We are now live here
Good
from
morning.
Fishhook or Fishhook area here
Yeah,
in Cape Town.
don't give our address away, Rory.
Yeah, yeah. Here in Cape Town, South Africa, we are live. Everything is working fine. And I see on my phone, I'm just going to greet a couple of people just to say, I see Wendy Lee. Wow, you're always the first to come.
Yeah, Wendy on my profile as well. Wendy's always, well, almost always number one.
Yep, Wendy, welcome to you. God bless you. Thank you for coming again, Wendy. Wendy Lee, good to see you. And I am sure there'll be a couple of other people coming as well. We made a little bit of a mistake this morning on the actual graphic. It said 10:30, and then I changed it to 10 o'clock because that's the standard time I normally go on is 10:30. But I changed it back. Well, I changed it to 10 o'clock because we're going half an hour earlier today on my live stream. Okay, so according to the advert that we put up, we are going to be talking about our journey of faith, right?
Yep.
Why are you smiling at me while you drink your tea? She's smiling at me. I don't know why, but she's smiling.
Because
anyway,
I'm happy to be sitting here talking about our journey of faith.
She is happy to be talking about the journey of faith. So anyway, that's all good.
Can I say why?
Yeah.
While we wait for people to join in, because love you too, Wendy. A lot of people, they see us ministering together. Then we both, like I do the women's things, and then we both go online separately. But a lot of people don't know. A lot of people do, but a lot of people don't know our journey of being called into ministry and all the practical, personal things that we have walked through learning to get to where we are today and still learning.
Yeah.
So I thought we both thought we could have a discussion. This is not a teaching on how to get into ministry. This is going to encourage people who are waiting to hear what to do with their calling and that kind of thing. The practical things we've learned.
Yeah, and it's not only just for people who want to go into ministry. It's for people who maybe feel a calling to start a business maybe.
Yeah.
Or they feel there's something that God has got for them to do, and they've heard something, but they don't know the timing. They don't know when to step out, when to, when to know when it's God's time, right?
Yep.
So this is what we're going to be talking about today to actually help people from our own journey, things that we've learned ourselves. It's not a formula that we've learned that we give to people, although there are principles that I believe we need to share with people.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people know many of those principles of faith and how it works.
I think we could keep people here for all day and longer, just with all the things we've learned and learning.
Right,
we haven't reached there yet, but we've learned some important things about who God is and how He works and how faithful He is. So, yeah.
I've got my phone over here, as you can see.
Yeah, I got
and
mine,
I see Sam Pegg.
Sam Pegg.
Nice to see you, Sam. God bless you.
Nice to be your favorite people, Sam.
Yep, very good. Wonderful. So what's the time? It's 4 minutes already. We've already gone over 4 minutes right now.
Why don't we just get going?
I think we're going to get started, all right?
Okay.
All right. So when did our journey start?
Oh, gosh. Okay, we're not going right back to when we got born.
No. When did our journey of faith start?
You and I together, our journey of faith, I remember we both knew we were called. Okay, I knew I was called. You knew you were called. And a lot of people look at us. I've got to say this. A lot of people say, it's so amazing how you both have the same calling. You both do things the same way. It is amazing, actually, if you think about it, that we both hear from God. We have the same vision. It's the same journey, and God put us together, even though we are totally different.
Yeah.
We minister differently, but it's the same calling. God's put us together. Yeah.
It's a combination.
But our journey started I'll say from my side, and you can add, like going to Bible school. First, like hearing the call, knowing you know, those early days before we had children, it was just you and I. And knowing there was something that God had called us to, we knew what we were called to do.
Yeah.
But how was this thing going to work?
Yeah.
Who you know, we didn't have people. Now we're talking back in the late 1980s. We didn't have people.
Mid 1980s.
Okay, mid 90. We went to
Yeah.
Bible school in 86. I think.
1986, yeah.
And so knowing we were called, but then there was no pattern that we could follow how this thing was going to work. Like someone was going to come along, recognize that we had this great calling on our lives, even though we weren't doing it. And then they'd send us out to the nations because we knew we were going to travel. We were called to the nations to equip and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there was no form to what we believed. So we went through all of those. It was like living by faith, but frustration and fear and all of that at the same time.
Okay, yeah. You see, when you don't know much, when you're starting out, you don't know much, but somehow God is able to get your attention. He's able to come in. He's able to do something inside your life to the point where there's a sort of a wanting to know the specifics of what is this thing that you've called us to do. So there's a seeking that starts, and God initiates that seeking.
Yeah.
So you're actually seeking the Lord, and then in an incredible way, He aligns you with people who begin to unlock. I think it's like an unlocking process. When the call of God on your life needs to be unlocked, it needs to be defined, it needs to come into a shape and a form. Otherwise, you're just a person with a lot of aspirations, a lot of dreams, excitement, a lot of, gee, I know there's something, I'm inspired, and so forth. So in those early days in 1985, we were connected with a church that was going somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
It was going somewhere. And William Bath.
William and Sharon,
Some of you out there might have heard of William Bath, William and Sharon. Sharon lives in Betty's Bay, I think. William has graduated to be with the Lord many years ago. But anyway, William and Sharon were the leaders of the church that we were part of. And they had a Bible school that they had started in 1985. And we were the first intake
I remember.
of people, together with a whole bunch of other people who went to Bible school for the whole year of 1986. And so in 1986, we got an education in the Word.
Yeah, those were the fun days.
Now, those were foundational things that were laid in our lives of the Word of God. William was a very powerful teacher, a teacher of the Word, and he had a very strong prophetic gift as well. Words of knowledge, all sorts of stuff. And also at that time, in 1986, Ed Trout came on the scene. He moved to Cape Town. He was in Secunda, and he went to America to Dr. Bill Hammond, and they prophesied that he would be going to Cape Town, and God would use him to help raise up the prophets in Cape Town. Isn't that amazing? But at the same time, now we'd met Ed Trout kind of very briefly in a church service. He came to minister in one of the churches that we were part of at that time, before we actually got to William and Sharon. And Ed Trout gave me a word about the prophetic, my calling to the prophetic. Very brief word, nothing spectacular at all or anything. And then we moved across to William and Sharon. Anyway, so then in 1986, we started going to Bible school. And in that year, the Lord called me to separate myself as well to seek Him.
Can I add that?
Yeah, you go ahead.
So here we were. I'm sure some of you are interested in this stuff, but I think it's also a good thing for us. We often talk, Rory and I often talk about the things we went through in the early days. And when I say the Bible school days were the fun days, now I can say that, but when we were in it, it wasn't that much fun, because we weren't, I don't know if you were waiting on the Lord in that year.
Yeah, I was.
I think you were. So we didn't have a whole lot
86.
of money. Yeah. We didn't have a whole lot of money. We would, sometimes we were driving a little Mini at one point, and there were days where we had to trust God that we would be able to get to Bible school from Plumstead to Rondebosch.
Yeah.
It was Rondebosch. And back in our Mini, we were really trusting God for everything. and then so we learned how to pray in those days. We learned how to shake the gates of heaven. We don't pray that way anymore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
back in the Bible school days, as Rory said, we were getting all this really good teaching.
Yeah,
We had a lot of
incredibly
good teachers,
stuff, yeah.
a lot of subjects. It was a proper Bible school
Yeah.
in the evenings.
Yeah.
And so we got our
Twice a week.
education there. Yeah, we got our
Spiritual
education there.
yeah.
But behind the scenes, we were learning all kinds of things that now when we look back, we see how important it was to learn that God is our provider, that God is faithful when he says, I've called you, he's going to keep you. He knows how to put the right people around you. And I clearly remember one evening, we hadn't discussed anything with William and Sharon about we called to ministry. We were those people who would be at every meeting because we were so excited about the Lord.
Yep.
We would be at every meeting we could.
Yep.
Every cell group, we had an early morning prayer meeting in our flat. I remember at one time.
Yep.
We would be at the meetings before 6 o'clock in the morning when William had prayer meetings.
That's right.
And we would be there on our knees praying on the chairs and that kind of thing.
Yep.
Every time there was a guest speaker, we were there.
Yep.
And so I think William and Sharon noticed something on us, and we know they noticed the call.
Yep.
And I remember one evening we were leaving Bible school. Everyone was walking out, and William and Sharon called us aside and said, listen, we want to talk to you. And they said to us that night, we believe God has told us to sort of take you under our wing and father you.
That's it.
And I thought, I didn't even know that this thing was possible. I didn't know that someone would notice something on us. And it was such a great blessing because even after we left the church and William had moved to a church, pastoring a church in Craddock, he would still phone us. And
on a regular basis.
And
there's still that strong connection.
So we always remember William and Sharon as being, they laid a great foundation
Spiritual
in
parents,
our lives
spiritual
as people, not just ministry. They laid the foundation of the word and all of that stuff. So for me, our journey, the reason we've been able to keep on going is because of the foundation that was laid.
We got.
And so now today we find people who just want to jump into ministry and they don't see the need for people who are going to father them.
Look, it's one thing to be influenced. It's one thing to be inspired. You can be influenced or inspired in many ways. You can be influenced online, you can be inspired online, but when there is a person-to-person connection of the joining of God, when God joins you with people who are doing what you are called to do, they begin to unlock what they carry, unlocks what you are called to do.
That's what's needed.
So William, for me, William unlocked the teaching realm, the realm of the teaching anointing, because he so inspired me in the area of digging into the word, seeking God, how to read the Bible, how to study the Bible, how to read and hear God while I'm reading, to receive a message of God while I'm reading. That's what William used to do.
Revelation out of the word, and a hunger for the word.
Yes. Now, that's what William imparted to me. This sort of realm to teach people and to know the truth and to find those areas of revelation that God wanted to reveal.
I think to this day, we didn't come online to talk a lot about William Barth, but it just happens. I think to this day, William Barth is the best teacher I've heard. I've heard a few. I mentioned names, and some of them are not around anymore, but he was so good. And this was like late 1980s.
Yeah, it was 80s, 1980s.
And I can imagine if he was around today. So your ministry of teaching, everyone comments on the anointing when you teach the word. Like you could just lay it out there. You give the details. That's what William used to do.
William used to do the same thing.
And so I always say you are my favorite teacher of the word. And we know where it comes from. But now, is it okay if we move on from Bible school days?
All right. Yeah.
So here we were at Bible school.
But now what about the 1986 time?
We're going to get there.
You mean you're going to jump forward
about
and then
the
go
separation?
Backwards? Yes.
I'm going to the separation.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So now a lot of people don't have to experience what we did. This is how God called us. You don't have to be looking for, Rory said this is not a formula. You don't have to be looking for, oh, the same thing happened to me, so that means I'm called. Or I haven't had that yet, so it means I'm not called. This is our
Everyone's journey
yeah.
is different. Yeah.
But I remember in 1986, I'm talking about the separation now. You know,
Was end of 1985. Yeah.
end of 1985.
Another prophet came to one of those
okay,
other
maybe
churches.
you bring it up.
There's a prophet by the name of Hugo Tulpen.
Yeah.
I don't know if some of you out there might ever have heard of Hugo and Leanne Tulpen. He was from Belgium. She was from America. And they were traveling the world. And they came to Cape Town on one of their trips. And I was called out in a service. And he prophesied over me. It was an impartation of prophecy of something that I'd never ever received before. It was something huge that was imparted. And it awakened.
But I wasn't there.
No. It awakened and unlocked certain things.
Yeah.
This is 1985, towards the end.
Yeah.
A couple of months, then about a month or two later, we'd moved across to William Bath, his church there, and William and Sharon. And then there was further unlocking of what God wanted.
Yeah.
But one of the things that stood out in the prophecy that Hugo Tulpen gave me was one of the things that stuck out. Was the Lord said, separate yourself to me, and I will be revealed to you and teach you and show you things that you don't yet know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in 1986, this word of separation, separate yourself to me, grew. It just grew on me. And I got convicted about it. And I didn't know what to do. And I got frustrated. What must I do? And it came to me that I should leave the work that I was doing and wait on God. If it was a month or 2 months, 3 months, I didn't know how long.
Yeah.
And I got frustrated and was asking everybody. Remember that story? I was asking everybody, what do you think?
I can pick up from, yeah.
And they all said, if you don't work, you can't eat. So I thought, well, yeah,
okay,
well,
Rory,
I'm not going to be having anything to eat now for a month.
Here's the danger of when God says something to you and it doesn't even make sense to your own thinking.
Yeah.
It's got to line up with the word of God, but those things were taken out of context, the words that were given to Rory. And even
if
people,
you don't work, you can't eat.
Even people we looked up to. There was one particular person we looked up to, and right up until she passed away a few years ago, we sort of, she was the person who would speak into our lives, and you know who I'm talking about.
Okay.
She would speak into our lives, and we were all in the same church at the same time. And even she didn't understand that. She didn't discourage us, but she didn't understand what was happening, because, you know, when God calls you, you understand it. And you can't go and explain it to people.
It's a direct command of God.
Yeah, and so
it doesn't fit for other people.
People on the outside look at you and they say, oh, you look like you're struggling. But the person who's called is trusting God for something. They're digging into God for revelation and guidance and everything. And the person on the outside thinks you're struggling. And so, and so I remember, Rory, I was working at the time. I had a job. This is before we had Kelly. So I was working.
Yeah.
Not a very high paid job, but I had a job. And Rory was also doing some freelance, like sideline stuff. What do you call it? It's not freelance. Commission only.
Yeah,
stuff.
commission only work.
So I remember Rory always, like, he knew, still does today. He's the breadwinner. We can't just sit here at home and do nothing. Like, the man's the head of the home kind of thing. He had all those things in place, but the calling of God was there. And so I remember Rory just getting more and more frustrated. And so one day, I know this was God now when we look back at it, I just said to him, listen, Rory, instead of asking everybody else for their advice, and you listen to their advice, it just causes more confusion, more frustration. Why don't you just do what God said to do? I've always had this belief system that if you feel, this is my belief system, don't do what I do. If you feel God is telling you to do something, you do it sincerely. And if it's wrong, he knows how to close the doors. And then you say, sorry, Lord, I was wrong. And you repent and he forgives you and you move on. So I said to Rory, one Saturday night, we were sitting in our lounge, and I also had enough of the frustration, because I knew he wasn't getting answers. You know, the more you You go to people and
You
ask for
wrestle,
advice.
And then you're wrestling with this thing that you feel God's saying
Yes,
to you, and
and
you're listening to everybody else too.
And everybody else can give
Yeah.
you the scriptures and tell you what to do, but you have to make the decision.
Yeah.
So I said to Rory, sitting in our little flat in Plumstead, the foundation days, I said to him, Rory, you're never going to know if this is God or not unless you actually do what you believe He's telling you to do.
Yeah.
I said it just like this.
Yeah.
And I said, so why don't you just do it? And so Rory said, okay. I didn't have to twist his arm. It was like it made sense. I said, if you're wrong, you're wrong. Then you just carry on doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so
it was a question of following something that I was convicted to do. It was more than just an idea. It wasn't a good idea because it didn't make sense.
I know.
Normally, a good idea makes sense.
Yes.
If it's your idea.
Yeah.
It's you've reasoned it out and you've kind of figured it out.
Yeah.
So you feel, oh, this is the best course because this is what my reasoning and my understanding.
Yeah.
You know, the Bible said, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him and He'll direct your paths.
And you were leaning so much, you were like walking
Yeah.
sideways.
So I was trying to sort of get some understanding. You see, you don't need to understand in order to obey.
That's the thing. Yeah.
So the longer I try to understand and figure it out and work it out, the more frustrated I got. And then, okay, that Saturday night I decided that's it. Monday morning, you going to work. Monday, I'm staying at home. I'm waiting on God.
Yeah.
So you left and you went to work.
I did the usual things,
Yeah.
the practical things.
Yeah.
I went to work.
Yeah. Then I closed the door, came in, sat down on the lounge, on the couch in the lounge. And I said, God, I sat like this. I said, God, here I am. What do you want with me? Here I am. I'm waiting on you. You said I'm going to separate myself. This is the beginning of it. And all of a sudden, the Lord came. Now, I didn't see Him.
Yeah.
I didn't see a form. I just felt I felt rain was falling in my lounge on me.
Yeah.
It felt like rain.
Yeah.
And this thing went on for hours and hours, 8 hours,
Yeah.
until you came home.
Yeah.
And then it was over. So you didn't walk in when it was happening. You walked in
No,
after it
I
happened.
missed it all.
And then I told you.
I was a little bit upset that I
I
missed
told you
it.
God has met
And it was
with
my
me.
idea.
God has met with me. God has spoken to me. God has shown me some things. And I know that what I'm doing is right. This visitation of God came.
Yeah.
It was a visitation, it was an encounter with God, undeniable,
Yeah.
that nobody could take away from me. I knew that I was on the right track. I was doing the right thing. And He said I was to wait on Him. I was to study the Word. I was to continue with Bible school or go to Bible school. At that time, I don't think we were at Bible school yet.
I think we were because we
we'd
used to get the
started.
supplies from where I was working
Okay.
and we used to
All right.
pass it on.
Okay, so that's how it was. So every day I'd wait on the Lord. I would pray. I'd seek the Lord. I'd read the Word. I'd study the Word. We'd go to Bible school on a Tuesday night and a Thursday night. And then we went to church on Sundays and we did all that kind of stuff for the whole year of 1986. That's how it was. And the Lord said I'd be here with Him for a year.
And it happened that way. But
Exactly,
now we need to move on a little
All
bit.
right.
Now we've been to Bible school. We knew we were called. We've been to Bible school.
And
We finished the whole
then
thing.
He told me I must go back to work.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You went back to work. It's like you'd think, now we finished Bible school.
Now it's
Now
time to go
we're
into
gonna
ministry.
go
You
to
must climb
ministry.
into ministry.
But then there was a whole lot of learning that happened. I'm skipping a whole lot of years.
Yeah.
There was a whole lot of learning that happened, like learning about, working with prophetic people, the Ed Trout days, they're involved in a team and all that
That's
stuff.
right, yeah.
Where we learned, so we had the teaching and the education at Bible school. We had William's teaching and the impartation there.
Yeah.
And then stepping over into the prophetic.
Yeah, when
And then
Ed Trout
in
came
the-
along, he moved to Cape Town.
In those days, we had Kelly, our firstborn.
Yeah.
So
That was 1988.
So I was
Yeah.
occupied with bringing up a child, so I wasn't that involved. I did
Yeah.
go to some of the meetings, but then
Mm-hmm.
some of the things we learned in those days, like what would you say our biggest lesson was during those days? I know what it is, but
What do I
what
think
did
it
we
is?
learn about God in those days? While we were waiting, here we
Well,
were.
why don't you say it? Because I can't.
I
can't
believe.
find out what.
I believe our
Yeah.
biggest lesson
Yeah.
we learned is God is faithful. When He says He's going to do something, He does it. But we don't understand how He's doing it. And so, in all the days, like serving another ministry, you know, you think, but I'm called to something. Sorry about that. I'm called to something. Surely I should be doing it. There are a lot of people who are sitting at home knowing they're called to something, but they're not doing it yet because God hasn't set things in place.
Okay,
Like,
so can I just say
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
The thing is, one thing I know is this, that when a person's called to full-time ministry, like an equipping ministry the way we are,
yeah,
when you're called to minister to the body of Christ and you're called to, and I think this principle even applies to people who are called to business and
Yeah.
all sorts of things. When he's called you to do something, he normally aligns you.
yes,
There's an alignment that happens
Yeah.
with people who are doing what you're called to do.
yes,
And they, as I said earlier on, they unlock aspects of
Yeah.
that calling. They impart things to you. They unlock things in your life. They give you understanding. They equip you. It's God doing it
yeah,
through those people. So the alignment is important. So those alignments with William Barth, the first one, and Ed Trout, the second one, those were the two alignments that we needed to unlock the call, teaching and the prophetic.
yeah,
And those two men of God were the instruments the Lord aligned us with
yeah,
to unlock our calling, or at least for me
yes, yeah,
and you.
yeah,
Okay.
of course. But also, like, we learned things about the character of God in all those formation days of our own lives, what ministry looks like. And then we knew God had called us to travel. And even then we said, how does
Didn't
this
know how
thing
to
work?
do it. Didn't know.
Like we would ask people, how does this thing work? And no one could tell us because they've been doing it for a long time and they couldn't, it just happened for them. And we'd think, but why isn't it happening for us? And then we'd think, but nobody, this days before being able to go online, you had to send letters out if you wanted people to know what was going on in your ministry.
Yeah.
You had to pick up a landline phone
Yep.
and phone people and say, hey.
And there was no social media.
Yeah, that's what I'm
You
saying.
couldn't put out anything on social
No.
media that people could get to know who you were
Yeah.
before you actually
And
went.
I'm actually very grateful for that because in the days of social media, people can just put stuff up and then automatically people assume, oh, they're called to ministry. Maybe they are, I don't know. But we had to learn. I felt like we were really breaking some hard ground. And so when, you know, to get going in a traveling ministry, when you, it's easy if you go to Bible school and you're called as a pastor and now you're going to plant a church or
Yeah.
you're going to pastor a church. Like
Yeah.
that was the thing back in the 1980s, 1990s. That's what everyone did. They got churned out of Bible school and everyone was a pastor.
Yeah.
But we weren't called to
We
that.
weren't called to pastor people.
So
No,
it was
we weren't called to
another
pastor.
another whole ground of how does this work, and I remember when we first started traveling, it was also skipping some years now. It was also finding out you got to build relationships with people in areas, and then word gets around that these people, I trust these people, have them in your church, and then.
Yeah.
Then we started
It's
ministering
building
around.
relationship with people, making
Yeah,
contact with people instead of
That's how God
soliciting.
aligns. Yeah.
You see, now the thing is, God told us not to solicit ministry. Don't do mail drops. Don't send out letters to people you don't know. It was to work through people in ministry who we'd met before.
But also we built relationships with people who got to trust us.
Yeah.
And then they would say, hey, come and minister in our church. And then we will tell our friends, our other pastors. And so for many years we had that. We would how long did we travel around South Africa? 13 years or something.
Yeah.
Where Rory would go if I couldn't go because by now we had Matthew. And so if I couldn't go, Rory would go. He'd get in his car and he'd drive to PE.
Yeah.
And spend 2 weeks in PE. Port Elizabeth, for those who don't know. Oh, and then we'd get in the car and all four of us would drive up to as far north as you can get, like Potgietersrus and
we
up there. We went up to Malelan and like in the far north of, I think it's north of South Africa.
Malelan is more east.
Well, wherever. It was like far from Cape Town.
Yeah, it's east.
And we'd live in people's homes and we would minister to people. And then I remember when we met Marius Gradwell and Linda.
Yeah, in Umtata.
In Umtata, Umtata. And you know, we
was the early
began
90s.
we
Yeah.
began to experience the favor of God, and we got a taste of what we were called to do. We knew we were called, and then internationally, we've got miracles to tell you about how we ended up ministering in France,
Yeah.
in Australia, how that opened up,
Okay.
in Holland, where else have we been? Holland, Australia, France. We've been somewhere else, and I can't think of it right now.
Mhm.
But all those places opened up, and then we began to realize that it's great to say that you've been to so many nations and you've been to so many churches, but what are you actually building
Yeah.
in a ministry?
Yeah.
And so I
You
think for
see-
people who are called, now I'll give it back to you. For people who are called into a ministry the way we are, not planting a church, when you have a church and it's an established church, you're building into the lives of people.
And then you have something to show for it.
Yeah, you can see this is growing. There are more cars in the parking lot. There are more cell groups. It's by numbers, you know.
Or the building's getting bigger because
but when you call to an itinerant ministry, it's relationship and the lives of people in other people's churches that are growing, and we don't get to see it. And so when God called us to stop traveling, you can maybe,
that was 2001.
Yeah.
2001. I think I knew, or we knew.
Yeah.
For
we
about
were ready.
3 years,
Yeah.
about 3 years before 2001. So
Yeah.
let's say it was, say, 1998, 1999, somewhere there.
98 we went to England, so it was
Around 1999.
Yeah.
Around 98, 99, okay? We just knew that there were changes coming.
Yeah.
That this itinerant thing that we were doing, traveling around exclusively only outside of Cape Town.
Yeah.
That was going to change. Something was happening. And we'd had a word from Ed Trout that God said that he would open many doors around the country, all over the place. And then he was going to say, stop there. It's time for Cape Town.
Yeah.
So we had that word sort of 13 years before. And so that word came to pass.
Yeah.
Where God was saying, stop there. It's time for Cape Town. And what he meant was, it's time to equip the people.
Yeah.
It's time to run prophetic schools. He didn't give us 13 years before. He didn't give us the details. He just knew. We had this word. He said, I'm going to have to say, stop there now. It's time for Cape Town. And so when the time came for the beginning of that new season, that word came back to us. That word arose again.
Yeah.
That word just came and into our hearts and minds at that time. So prophetic words the Lord gives you that are important and that speak of a future thing.
Yeah.
They will come and they'll rise to the surface. They'll rise up to the surface in your heart, in your mind.
Yeah.
At the time, at the right time. So timing was involved. So at that time, that word came. And there was this seeking. Okay, God, what is it in Cape Town? What is it? At the same time, we were on a ministry trip in Port Elizabeth again.
Yeah.
And we were ministering for, it was the Anglican Church in Charlotte, in Port Elizabeth, St. Nicholas, St. Nick's, Port Elizabeth. We were doing a prophetic bunch of meetings there, remember? It was a Saturday morning, I think.
That was an evening.
Oh, an evening. And I think it was the last evening. And a little old lady came over to us.
Yeah.
And she said, I just had this vision about you. And I saw you walking down a road and you got to a bridge. And you walked across the bridge. And as you came to the other side of the bridge, there was this banner. There were gates and a banner. And the banner said prophetic schools.
Yeah. And we this, I'm telling you, it was amazing.
This is the vision this little lady had. When she said the vision to us, I knew.
Yeah,
we both knew.
This is it.
We knew it's prophetic schools because that's what we were thinking. But we hadn't made the decision because we were waiting on God to show us clearly. And that was the clarity that came.
Yeah.
That little lady.
That little lady was like, God loves to use the people who you don't think he's going to use. He didn't use the pastor. You know,
No.
it was a little lady who never said boo or bar at any of the meetings, and she came forward and almost apologetically, like, I've got this vision for
Yeah.
you, do what you want with it, and it was just what we needed to hear.
At that moment, yeah,
But
boom.
when we heard prophetic schools, it was in our heart because this is what we did. But we had never really established anything in Cape Town.
Nothing. We hadn't done
There
a
was
thing.
nothing. It was like ministering outside, and we hadn't even tapped into the equipping people in prophetic schools. We were prophesying to people.
We were going and preaching in churches,
yes, and prophesying.
We were doing sort of like 3-4 day meetings and stuff like that sometimes.
But it was the emphasis was more on Rory and I ministering to the people,
giving them words,
not
prophesying
teaching
to them.
not teaching them how to do it and what to do with the words. So when we got this word, we knew it was right. I remember we thought, now we're going to have to put some, like a curriculum
together, yeah.
And I remember I used to sit outside the back here. It used to be summer, and I used to tan at the back here.
Ooh.
And I had my notebooks, and I'm telling you, it was like the stuff just flowed. The subjects we could cover. Because when there's a passion on your heart, when you call to something, God puts the passion in your heart. And ours is
But He started showing us how.
Yes. He started to give us things we could teach on and how this could work. And this was before the days of people could get on a plane and fly to Supernatural School of Ministry at Bethel, where it was like the flavor. We hadn't heard of this before. There was no one we knew of in Cape Town who was doing this stuff. And so once again, it was like breaking ground.
Yeah.
But we knew this was God. And so
exactly.
We didn't have a church venue.
No, we did.
We didn't have our own. What I'm saying is,
I mean,
we didn't have a place.
We always been part of a church.
But we didn't have our own venue to use. We didn't know how to do this thing, and we went and we sat and spoke to our pastor, John Fisher, who was our pastor at the time.
Yeah,
John Fisher. He's another one who played an important role in
our
lives.
Very much so.
Like a real father accepting us, even though we weren't spiritually grown up there. We had already been in ministry for a long time.
He knew we were called out there.
He recognized something on us, and he just backed us. And we're still there today, but he's no longer the senior leader, but we still see him now and again. But so I remember sitting in his office at his desk, and we said, John, this is what we believe God has told us to do. And he was so excited about it. He didn't say, oh, prove this to me. Give me the scripture that God has said.
No, he said, go ahead, use the building.
He said, go ahead, you can use the building.
He counseled us. He gave us some counsel, good advice.
And it was so exciting. And then also another person we need to mention on our journey is Kevin O'Donoghue.
Kevin O'Donoghue,
a pastor, he's now retired. We saw him not too long ago across
Kevin
the
and
mall.
Linda,
They used to lead the Full Gospel Church in Fishhook. And I remember at one point when we didn't know what to do in ministry because we knew, I think it was the seed of God, the seed that had been there to establish something. But we thought, oh, well, the only way to do it is to have a church. So for a while, we entertained the idea of a church.
We were thinking about planting a church.
So I remember Marius Gradwell, who I mentioned before, who was now, we met him in Mthatha, who was now the senior leader of Christian Center in East London.
East London Christian Center,
and he was here in Cape Town, and he sat in our lounge, and we told him we feel we want to get a venue and start a church. And he said, don't do it that way. I think he knew deep down inside we weren't called to lead a church. And then we went and we sat down with Kevin O'Donoghue. It's important to have people who've been somewhere in ministry, and they've got wisdom,
and
they
can discern as well.
They can discern.
Yeah.
And so we sat with him because he's a trusted person.
Yeah.
And
we just want to tell you something. What do you think?
And straight out, he said, Rory, you're not called as a pastor, you're a prophet. It's the worst thing for you to do is start a church. We took advice from people.
He said that's not your ministry.
Yeah, we took
not you.
Yeah, we took advice, and we're so grateful.
And that's it. We backed off out of that thought so quickly.
Yeah, so then we started doing our prophetic schools.
Yeah, we did.
In our church, the church we belonged to.
And then it branched out to other venues, other places, other churches around the peninsula.
Yeah.
That was 2001.
I know, 2001.
It's now 2026, 25 years ago.
So we've been doing prophetic schools, but now we started out with our prophetic schools. There were 3 levels. We got really serious about this because there was a lot to learn. And if you want to be grounded and learn in the prophetic, you got to learn the proper stuff. It's not all about the spooky spiritual prophesying to everything that moves. You got to know the word. You got to know the character of God. You've got to know your identity, warfare with the words, and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So
it's
we
a
had
lot.
all
It's a
these
lot.
subjects. And then, so we started out, it was 3 levels, and people paid. John Fisher gave us advice.
Yeah,
he
he
said,
said, no,
don't
you
do it
must
for
charge.
free. You got to charge people so they commit to it.
Yeah.
So it was 3 levels, and each level was 6 weeks. It was twice in the evening.
Yeah, twice a week for 6 weeks.
Twice a week
yeah.
for 6 weeks. And at the end of level 1, they would get a certificate. At the end of level 2, and we did this for a while.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And then
it got a bit too much.
It got a bit too much because
people weren't able to commit for 6 weeks.
Yeah, but not only that. Also, when God said, stop traveling, he didn't mean just stay in one, just stay at home. He also opened other doors of ministry. So we were involved in that as well. We're traveling now, by the way.
Yeah.
It was a season of stay in Cape Town to establish something. And then, and then we started doing the prophetic schools like we would do a weekend. A whole day Saturday or Friday, Saturday. And then churches started inviting us to do to do what we were doing here in Cape Town. Which is why we went to Holland, because they heard we were doing equip. Which is why we're going to Australia too. Which is why we're going to Austria.
Yeah, Austria wants us.
In 2 weeks' time, we'll be in Austria.
Yeah.
And the purpose is prophetic equipping, because you know what happened. In our early formation years, we didn't know. We knew we were called to travel and equip. Prophetic, definitely. But we didn't know how it would work. Now that we know exactly what we're called to do, equip the saints for the work of ministry, now people can see that people can recognize that's our ministry. So they invite us to,
for that specific purpose.
Reason.
Yeah.
It's like, if you don't know what you're called to do and you're still wrestling around and you're trying everything, nobody's going to see what you have to impart to them or to equip them with. Yeah. And so those are the things that we learned.
Yeah.
And so,
so we've got a journey. It's a journey and it's a long history.
Yeah.
The journey started 41 years ago.
Yes, I know.
In the prophetic now. 41 years ago, in the prophetic, hearing God, being guided by the Lord.
Yeah.
And doing the stuff for 41 years.
And also, we have to say this, is that people always, in the early days, used to think we had a lot of money. Remember? When we first started out in ministry, people used to say, you guys look like you're rich for some reason. And we'd never earned a salary since we went into ministry. We've never earned a salary.
37 years full time.
We don't have work that we do on the side that brings money in, because now we have a business here and that's keeping our ministry afloat. God always said to us from the beginning, this was the important lesson that I was talking about earlier. God always said to us from the beginning, I will be your provider. I'm going to raise up support for you. I'm going to do this, do that. And we trusted him. And we lived by, a lot of times, some of you have heard lots of our stories about trusting God for the small things, like to pay a water bill that was like 70 Rand or something. But when we look back, God was so faithful to do it. And we still, to this day, do not put up our needs on Facebook. When God said, I want you to do a school, I want you to hire a venue, I want you to do a ladies' camp, that kind of thing, we do not put it up on Facebook. It's all
what do you mean we don't put it up?
Our needs. Okay. We share the event, of course. But we don't say, we need money for this. We're going to go on a ministry trip somewhere. So, give us money so we can go. If God leads people to do that, that's fine. But he told us not to do that.
Told us not to solicit people.
So God has been faithful, even including up to our children and their education. Yeah. They're both studied after school.
And God moved on people to pay for their studies.
We saw the miracles. Yeah. God moved on them. So God has been faithful when it comes to provision.
Yeah.
So now we know whatever God says do, or wherever God says go, when it's God, he's the one who he sends provision for the vision. Yeah. Because it's his vision.
He does,
And so a lot of people, I think in an itinerant ministry, especially, you have to learn that. In any kind of ministry, you have to. But in itinerant ministry, because otherwise you start doing meetings, planning things to pay your bills.
Yeah, you don't want to do it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and then you get stressed out
You
and
don't
burnt
want to.
out.
You don't want to do it for the wrong motives and
Yeah.
the wrong reasons because
Yeah.
you're under pressure now.
Yeah,
So now you've got to make something happen.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you know, we're not perfect in the sense that we've got everything right, you know. But
No, but we
God
learned,
taught
and
us
we made
that.
a lot of mistakes
Oh
too.
yeah, we did. But
Mm.
God taught us that thing about trusting Him as provider,
Mm.
trusting Him to open the right doors, not
Yeah.
to make things happen. You
Yeah.
know, we don't pick up the phone and say, we feel, unless God could do this, you never know. You know, we want to go to Joburg. Now we know some pastors there. We want to come up there and please have us to minister. We don't do that anymore because we're content to do only what God tells us to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when we
Yeah.
got the invitation to Austria now, we haven't been there for 20 years, and they contacted us and
Yeah.
said, will you come and do some prophetic equipping? And we said yes, because we know
That's what
we're
we're
called to do.
Yeah.
So we're going, and
Yeah.
it's going to be great. I know
Yeah.
it's going to be
good.
great.
Yeah.
And
Wonderful.
so is there any other lesson you want to talk about? Any part of our journey that we've left out?
I think
There's a
when
lot.
you've got to learn faith,
Mm.
you can have a lot of the teachings on faith. You can be inspired by
Yeah.
other people's testimonies of faith and how they trusted
Mm.
God, how they believed
Mm.
God, and the miracles God did for them, how
Yeah,
He healed them, provided for them, and so forth.
yeah,
But unless you are in that position yourself to
Yeah.
believe God, trust the Lord,
yeah,
you've got to walk the journey of faith yourself. You've
Yeah.
got to learn how to hear God for yourself.
mm.
You've got to learn when God leads you. You've got to learn when God says no.
Mm.
You've got to learn when God guides or
Yeah.
how He guides.
Mm.
And that relationship that you have with Him
Yeah,
is more important than, it's not just taking principles
yeah,
or formulas.
Mm.
It's not. It's finding out who God is to you
yeah,
and how He works with you
mm.
and your relationship with Him. I think that was the foundation of faith that we
Definitely,
needed.
yeah.
We had the word
Mm.
from Bible school in us,
Mm.
but we had to work out who God is.
Yeah,
What is our theology about God? What do we believe about Him? When nothing's happening,
mm.
when He doesn't come through,
Yeah,
and you got to wait, and you got to wait, and you're
Mm.
getting frustrated, and nothing's happening.
mm.
What do you really believe about God?
That always
What do
comes
you
out,
lean
yeah.
on? What do you go for? What do
Mm.
you, what does pressure do to you?
Yeah,
And that's how you have to learn, who is God?
mm.
Can I really trust Him?
Pressure's a good test.
Yeah. Can I really trust Him?
Yeah, mm.
And the only way we could do that was to remember what He did before,
yeah, mm.
to
And what He
remember
said.
how He led us before, how
Mm.
He provided, how He healed us, how He moved before,
Mm.
even in a different season
Yeah,
of another need, another
Mm.
situation has arisen. What do?
mm.
We can still go to God and talk to Him and say, right, God, this is what we're talking to you about.
Yeah.
And we lay it before Him,
Mm.
and then we wait on God for a period of time based on what we prayed into.
Yeah.
Now we thank Him. Now we praise Him. Now we expect the answers. Now we expect the interventions. And then, boom,
Yeah.
something happens, and then the thing is resolved and
Yeah,
sorted
no.
out. Boom.
But you know, I remember in the early days, when we were at like the Bible school days, even after that, we'd go to church, and these guest speakers would come to church. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
And they'd have the best clothes on, arrive in their fancy car, and get up on the stage and glory to God, and they preach all these great messages, good stuff. And I'd sit there and I'd think, I'm called to ministry, and there's nothing happening in our lives. You know, it's like we've got the calling, we've got the faith, we think we have the faith, we've got the expectation, and they can just seem to go where they want and do what they want, and
They were in a different season to what we were in.
And
Yeah.
so the thing for us is that it was radical obedience to trust God, that He said, this is what I called you to, this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
A lot of waiting, a lot of frustration, a lot of anxiety, but
Mhm.
knowing. I think the thing that kept us is knowing what we were called to do.
Yeah.
If we
That's it.
didn't know we were called, we would have left long ago.
Oh, long ago.
We
Yeah.
would have, I don't know
Yeah.
what we would have done.
No.
We would have been
We would have
retired
backed
now,
out.
but-
We would have backed off. The pressure would have been too
Yeah.
much. we would have gone and done something else.
And also, we don't plan to retire.
No.
What's our vision now? Should we talk about it?
Why don't
before
you? Why don't you?
Okay,
do it?
this is our vision
give
because
the shorter part because we're already up at 50 minutes
Rory's
now.
actually telling me to give a shorter part here.
Yeah, a shorter
It's normally
version.
the other way around.
Okay, you go
so,
for it. You've done most of the talking this morning, by the way. But anyway,
have
go
I
ahead.
really?
Yeah, you have.
Oh,
But it's fine.
See, this is how we operate.
No, that's fine.
We
I don't
argue
mind.
about
because
who's
we're doing
gonna
this
talk more.
together.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
this is actually Rory's broadcast. So I think I know our vision is, we do a lot of ministry around Cape Town. A lot of women's equipping happens, and Rory's part of that too. A lot of women's camps, and we also we intend to do much more in the line of prophetic equipping, both of us together, like more prophetic weekends, prophetic evenings, to equip the saints. That's very necessary in these days. But we also have a vision for which we've had for a long time, is to have a place, not a building.
Yeah, not a church building.
Not a church building, but a permanent place that can be open for people to come. At the moment, we're using other people's homes, which is amazing. It's a blessing. God has opened up homes for us to use. But we want to have a place where people can come, get equipped in the prophetic, have worship nights, have prophetic gatherings, and a whole thing. And so this is what we're praying into, to have a place of our own.
A training center. Basically, a training
center.
equipping center.
Yeah, that describes it better.
Yeah. Preferably a house, a big house.
A big house that we can live in.
Big house. Yeah. And part of the house will be used for that.
Yeah, we've got huge vision. We're not planning to retire now. We're not planning to move anywhere else. God hasn't said to us. A lot of people say, "Are you going to move somewhere else?" We are not. There's no reason for us to move outside of Cape Town unless God appears in our bedroom one night and says, "I want you to move to so and so," and He hasn't said that yet. We've been laying ground here in Cape Town for decades.
Yeah, for a long, long time.
And so we feel as if we're just starting.
Yeah.
And this is the vision that we're talking about. This is the vision where we can build a prophetic community of people, not a church.
Not a church.
People from different churches, but people who want to grow in the prophetic.
Yeah.
And we can take our almost 40 years of experience
41.
and help.
It's 41.
Okay. And help. Is it 41?
It's 41 years.
Okay.
Do the math. 1985, 2026. 41 years.
Okay, well, I normally say we've been in ministry for almost 40 years, and you say 38.
No, ministry is 38.
Let's talk about
Full
this.
time is 37 years.
Okay, that's fine. I got the times wrong.
The total time in the prophetic has been 41.
Okay, a total time in the prophetic, And so we want to be able to help people to do that. We want to leave a legacy behind.
Yeah.
Not just bless people and then they say, "Oh, that was a fantastic word," and they leave and nothing happens because they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So
that's it. So anyway, there you go. So we've given you the gist of our journey, the kind of
we've skipped many years.
Well, what we can do just in this almost an hour, that's what I thought we should talk about. That's really good. So I don't know. I'm sure that there are many of you who want to know more, but that's really okay. It's not a problem. But it's been great to be here this morning to speak to people and to share. Let's have a look and see who was here.
Yeah, mine aren't all coming up here.
So, Wendy, you were the first, and then Sam Pegg came along. Keith Gallant, nice to see you as well, my friend. Thank you very much for coming. Eleanor and Maury Gallant, you as well. Thank you very much. Natasha Furness, thank you so much also for coming. These are the people who commented.
Matthew J. Mole is watching.
Our son, Matthew J. Mole. Thank you, Matt, for coming today. D. Curtis, thank you for coming as well.
Yeah.
And that is all.
Janine van Skalkwyk.
I can't see Janine.
She just showed up. I think people are going to catch up later.
I don't see Janine's name anywhere.
Sam Pegg, remember the download.
Oh, Janine, there we go. Wonderful. Okay, well, that's it. Okay, folks.
Yeah.
That's it. All right.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for coming today. Thank you for listening. And
thank you for having me
good.
on your
It's mine. It's
anointed
my
profile page.
That's fine. It's all good. Right, folks. Thank you very much. God bless you all. And we will see you soon again. and keep on trusting the Lord for what God has got for you.
Yeah.
All right, then.
Bye.
God bless. Bye bye.